Today, we're going to be talking about Bright and the Shape of Water, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. I am here with Matt, soon to be called Mattward Hey.
Mattward?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been watching, actually I haven't, but SpongeBob.
Oh, okay.
Like Squidward.
Okay, well, are you saying I'm similar to the starfish character? Squidward, sorry. I was thinking of Patrick.
Say,
Never mind.
As far as intelligence, no.
Squidward is grumpy.
Overall, is he?
Yeah, he's really grumpy.
Oh, I didn't. I guess I don't watch the show enough. So there you go.
Okay.
Who am I today?
Hey, everybody, I'm here with Joel, Mr. McSicky Pants Cunningham.
I am Mr. Mix. You can probably hear it still. It's like, it feels like it's in the front of my face at this moment.
Yeah.
Like all the cold and everything like that. That's,
Oh, do you talk like this?
Yes.
I don't know. I have an accent, but
funny.
whatever.
if I start hacking and coughing partway through this, I apologize distinctly, but I just wanted to, apologize for that in advance because it's probably going to happen.
Apology accepted.
I was thinking Patrick. That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, Patrick,
That's
he's
probably 'cause I'm sick.
Like there's inanimate objects
Patrick,
that are smarter than he is.
Yeah, I was thinking Patrick.
Oh, okay.
That's a good word. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're not a Squidward. Not at all. So, anyway, why don't you give our listeners some ways to get connected here at the get-go?
I don't know if Patrick's any
Drink some
better,
water.
but I will say that
I said not as far as intelligence goes.
okay.
So, yeah.
You can reach us. You can contact us over at all of the social medias, but you can do that all in one nice location, which is realreviewmedia.com. That's REEL, realreviewmedia.com. Link to our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all those fun things. And you can connect with us via email too, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. And you can make that happen there.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Beautifully done.
Absolutely.
So today we're talking about two films that we've had a chance to see. Matt, you've had a chance to see a ton of films over the last little bit.
I've seen a few, right? And this
Yeah.
is totally abnormal. Normally,
It is.
you're like way ahead of me, and I'm like playing catch up all the time. But I've kind of jumped the gun a little bit,
You
in
have.
a good way.
Yeah, and there's a
And-
lot of good films you had a chance to see because we got Oscar season coming out.
Oscar season. I'm
So-
still not even caught up all the way yet.
Yeah, me
So
either.
there's a bunch of films out there that are probably going to be in consideration. So I'm trying to hit all those head on.
Same here. But today, specifically, we're talking about two films. We're talking about one, Bright, which is a Netflix film that premiered just a little while ago. We're also going to be talking about The Shape of Water, which I did not get to see.
Right.
But you will be sharing about that. And your
Yes, I
thoughts
will be.
And perspective. So why don't we get right into it?
Let's do it.
Why don't we get in there? We're going to talk about Bright
Be
to
Right.
start. So do you want to give our our description for this?
Yes, absolutely.
Might be a
All right.
Netflix one too.
Yeah, it is. Netflix description. So, set in a world where fantasy creatures live side by side with humans, a human cop is forced to work with an orc to find a weapon everyone is prepared to kill for. Directed by David Ayer, who has done some great stuff. Now that I'm seeing this, when I say that, Fury was awesome. Anyway, so when I say, now that I'm seeing this, writer was Max Landis.
Yeah.
Where I can see some of that. He's got a lot of odd, quirky things about him. And so when he writes, I can actually...
Fury was great, but it's so offset by Suicide Squad.
Right.
Which I will honestly say that might have been a lot of studio stuff with the editing,
Yeah.
the way they put that together, but still. Just,
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it stars Will Smith, Joel Edgerton, Noomi Rapace. But that's it. Those are some of the main guys. I mean, you have Edgar Ramirez, Lucy Fry, Veronica Ngo, to name it, but those are the main people.
Yeah. It's like the best way that I could describe this movie, and I want to get your thoughts, but like if this is a good summary, it's kind of like a Will Smith cop drama action with elves and orcs and fairies
Right.
and magic. That's
Yeah.
kind of the best way to like explain it.
Right.
So what were your overall thoughts on Bright?
I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought some of the action stuff was cool. I do like the cop element of it.
Yeah.
And I was interested, and it's hard for me to kind of play this back and forth because I think what I did like about it is something that I didn't like about it because they didn't really get into it enough. And that was they created a mythology in this film with the elves and the orcs and like this 2,000 year history and all this stuff and like the all this crazy history that happened between and all like what elves are capable of doing, what a bright is, and like magic wands and all this stuff and they like kind of go into it a little bit, but they don't focus on it. And I was actually really interested about learning more about the mythology, as opposed to staying so much in with this like strained relationship between
the cop
Will
drama
Smith
aspect.
and Joel Edgerton's orc character.
It was like a buddy cop drama, with action.
I actually, and so I liked their chemistry together.
Mm-hmm.
I felt bad for Jacoby, Joel Edgerton's character, because Will Smith was being such a jerk to him.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, hang on. Jacoby's kind of seemed like he's being a really cool dude, Like, I don't know. But I'm sure they're playing that up, the character, and why he's salty with him and stuff to begin with. But,
well, Will Smith wasn't a nice guy.
Right.
I mean, it was hard for me to get that side of Will Smith.
Right.
Because he has such a dynamic character.
Right.
He's a hard guy to look at and think, you're just not a likable kind of person.
Right.
Like even in his like grumpiness of this role, you still kind of like, I'd love to hang out with that guy.
Right.
And like talk to him. So there was like a couple lines, like one in particular when he's in the police station and he's like, look, just assign me anybody besides Jacoby. Just give me anybody. And the police chief, and I'm spoiling this, I apologize. But like, she's like, look, nobody wants to be your partner. And I was like, I don't believe that.
Right.
Like, nobody doesn't want to be Will Smith's partner. You know what I mean? Like,
Tommy Lee Jones is in the corner raising his hand. I'll be his partner.
Volunteer. Yeah. So I get what you're kind of saying there.
Right.
A little bit. For me, positives. The action in this was really solid.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, there was some really solid and almost grotesque.
Yeah.
Like really dark kind of, it's R, for a reason.
The kung fu stuff and the fighting stuff was really...
and the gunshots and everybody shooting and some of that. It got a little crazy at times. I think especially like when the elves came into the picture in some of the fighting they did. Some of the scenes you were a little bit like, are these like gods? Like what
They were just wiping out legions of people.
Right. It was like a Legolas thing, from Lord of the Rings. It was like So I thought that was fun. I did think some of that was good. I thought I don't know. It was kind of cool to imagine a universe where it's almost like our modern world, but mixed with, orcs and fairies and things like that. It was kind of a cool and imaginative idea. And I think I gave it a lot of credit because I haven't seen anything like that done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It kind of fantasy and modern have always lived in two distinct parallels. And if they ever came together, it was always like one universe happened to like go through a portal or something like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's never like these are two universes.
It's just how it is. It's what the world is.
Right. And so I thought that was pretty neat in a sense.
Yeah.
I thought the acting was good.
Yeah.
I thought nobody felt like they were just phoning this in for a paycheck.
Right.
Will Smith was great acting. I think Joel Edgerton's Jacoby character.
Yeah.
There was definitely moments where you kind of feel for him.
Yeah.
And
I
you're
did
like,
right from the get-go. I was like, oh, what's up? He's just super excited to be a cop. And it's always been his dream. And anyway.
Agreed. And I really did like as well what you talked about, that sort of legend aspect of it, that like there's this lore and there's mythos that's kind of in this world, and I liked them kind of going into that and the whole magic. But I think and moving more into like the natives and stuff, that was more of a negative for me as well, that I wanted more a sense of like, what is that mythos, what is that journey that they're going on, what is that like,
especially how it relates to certain characters that we find out at the end of the movie. You're like, well, why is this person?
Why is that?
Yeah.
That's significant. And
and
I knew that was going that direction.
I had to be right because they telegraphed it.
Right, they telegraphed it 8 times in the movie. There's just so much about it that you're like, okay, I know where this is building to.
Yeah,
and it took forever to get there. I thought that was going to happen
earlier.
In the earlier, like when the first things start to hit the fan,
and then more stuff would happen. But it was just like it happened, something significant, and then like it was over.
Right, and it took so long to get there. It was just really shocking, I think, in a sense. But it was worthwhile in that sense. I mean, they built up to it, and it felt like, okay, well, there was a good payoff. It wasn't like they led up to it and then nothing happened.
Yeah.
I had a hard time, and I'll say personally again, this felt like a bit too obvious. They were doing a definite shade of like the whole social commentary angle, and it just felt way too obvious in my face. that they're trying to
It wasn't
almost,
subtle enough.
no, they're
subtle
trying
at
to
all, yeah.
make the orcs more or less like urban black, like that they're mistreated, they did this. Now the difference is like, well, in this world, the orcs had made a decision purposefully at a much earlier period.
Like 2,000 years ago, they followed some like war
the Dark
criminal.
Lord, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, they're disliked in there. But the mistreatment and the very obvious social commentary of like the white elves with like the pointy ears being like the people that are the most wealthy and have the most power and influence versus like, you know, the orcs, the ugly, like, you know, with the chains and the gangsta look. It's like, that was just so in my face. And I prefer more of like more of a subtleness to it. I guess it just was like way too like, hey, look at this social commentary we're doing.
Right. No, I got you.
Not that I disagreed with it or had a problem with what they were trying to say about it. It was just, we've talked about this. I really don't like soapboxing. And it almost felt like a bit of, and I think if they had spent more time going into what you're talking about,
The
what we're talking, the mythology,
stuff.
it would have felt much more lessened.
Sure.
You know, it would have felt much more like, here, we're just on this journey about this like legendary type event that's occurring in the lives of these people that live in this world where this is a social reality.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that would have been much more interesting. I
Yeah.
would have enjoyed that.
No, I see that. I see that for sure.
Yeah, and I think this sounds really silly, and I'm going to spoil this as well. It's not a big deal, but like in the trailer, they showed like Will Smith holding onto like a sword. You know, like you know,
Right.
that sword. I thought that was going to be like a huge part.
Right.
I was like so looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
Will Smith just like running around and just like hacking and
he's not.
slashing
Yeah,
people
yeah,
with
yeah.
swords and stuff, and that wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
it's just like crazy man sword. Yeah.
Yeah. So, any more negatives on your?
No, I didn't have a lot of expectations going into it. I felt like it didn't exceed any of my minimal expectations that were already there. So I was just kind of like, okay. I wish I would have known. I love, and Neil Blomkamp does this, and he like really champions stuff when he does his little short films on Oats Studios. Like it's
Yeah.
always like some person out of obscurity has some sort of like special ability or some special power
Absolutely.
that happens. That's something he
it's-
always does.
It's like the hero's journey in a
Right.
sense.
So that's kind of what I was thinking this was going to be. And it does it at the very end, but it's just kind of like, yeah, but here it is. Oh, we're done. And I was just, it didn't pay off for me. And I love it when it payoffs really well. I feel like Neil can do that in those little short stories pretty effectively. But with this, I was like, okay. You know, so it got a sequel.
Yeah.
It got picked up by Netflix for a Bright 2.
Yeah.
So we'll see, because I feel like now that the precedent has been set with this one character in this big revelation at the end, that we need to have some explanation. What's going on? What does that mean? What's going to happen with this person? And
Yeah.
now, you know, anyway. So
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's kind of what they go into more in the second one. I hope
maybe
they,
they'll spend more time on the mythology of things.
Yeah, I think the biggest complaint that I'm hearing is that, well, like if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score for this, hugely divergent views between critics and audience. Audience are liking it a lot. It's got
Yeah.
like an 87%. Critics right now it's like at 28%.
Right,
It's got a super low end. A lot of people are commenting on the social commentary angle, but then additionally the blandness of like the overall fantasy.
Sure.
That it really does. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's just like, and maybe that's a part of it, but it's almost just kind of like, yeah, well, we're orcs.
Yeah.
Well, we're fairies, and
Yeah.
yeah, we exist. And it's like you wanted to feel like you were really getting into the world more.
Yeah.
And I think that would have added more to that element.
Yeah,
So-
for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I'd watch a sequel.
Yeah,
I'd be interested
I'd
to
probably
see.
check it out
and,
too.
Yeah, to see hopefully if they're expanding into that universe a little bit more.
Want me to rate it first? I can rate it first.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 74.
74.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna go a little higher,
Okay.
but not much. I'm giving it like a 78.
Okay.
So it's C plus for me.
Cool.
C for you.
C for me, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Well, then that will wrap things up with our talk on Netflix movie. I should say Bright.
Netflix show movie Bright.
Yeah, it's hard when it's Netflix because they always think of shows.
It's true.
You know, for
It
whatever
is
reason.
true. That's their niche.
Yeah, and they've always done a lot better with their shows than they have with their movies.
Yeah, it's been a thing. It's all good though.
Anyway, so pretty quick on that one, but we're moving into our second film now.
Yes.
Which you're going to have a lot more to say than I will.
Yes, because you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, and you might have a lot more perspective because I think you didn't have a necessarily great opinion or a great
Yeah, we'll see going into this.
Yeah.
So we're talking about
Experience, I should say.
The Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Directed, written by Guillermo del Toro. Basically, the synopsis: at a top secret research facility in the 1960s, a lonely janitor forms a unique relationship with an amphibious creature that is being held in captivity. Starring Sally Hawkins, Michael Shannon, Richard Jenkins, Octavia Spencer, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Dougie Jones. Not Dougie, it's just Doug Jones. But so there's a lot of hype around this movie, especially in award season. People are like, this is Guillermo del Toro's best movie, and it's going to win Oscars and all that stuff. And
Wow.
and I could see it on a couple of levels. First of all, let's start positives. Acting was awesome. Sally Hawkins as someone who is mute in the film, who cannot talk and who has to act specifically with her face
Yeah, it's
and what
physical.
she does.
Yeah.
So good. There's one scene in particular that I was like, man, this is super intense. Like, she's conveying like her frustration to somebody who's not like paying attention to her, and people have to pay attention to her to understand what she's saying because she signs. And if they're not looking at her,
Yeah.
they don't know anything's happening. So
Right.
she's like hitting things. She's doing things to like get attention and like look, like getting their face and like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that scene in itself, I was like, wow, this is really, really engaging. I was really into that moment. I was like, this is great. Across the board, the acting was really, really good. The visual, Guillermo del Toro never really has a problem with this, but visually it looked awesome.
Yeah. He's got a distinct style.
Right.
It's very much a horror type look.
Right.
Dark.
There's a lot of dark and
edgy,
gritty looking stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of the visuals in this movie are fantastic. The production design, with it being a period piece and all the stuff that happens during that time frame in the 60s, and some of the social commentary stuff that didn't feel too forced, but it all matched up. It lined up. It worked really well. My problem is the story, because it's being pitched as like a fairy tale, which I get, but they don't explain the fairy tale to me.
Yeah.
There's a twist, which wasn't really a twist because I called it right when I saw what was happening, that they showed at the beginning
Yeah.
of the movie, and it happens at the end, but they don't explain how it happened.
That the sea creature's a female and it's going to have sea babies.
No, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I was like, okay, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen at the very end of the movie, but why? How? I was a little frustrated with that. It got really slow in the middle. Like
Okay.
I started getting a little droopy eyed. I didn't fall asleep, but I was like, oh, what's happening to me? And basically they're pinning this film, the relationship. It's a love story, basically.
Yeah.
And a like kind of a self-discovery, almost like, you can, in your uniqueness, connect with anybody, even if they're not necessarily human. Kind of a
What
thing.
is this saying about relationships?
Right. So Sally Hawkins is one of her rants saying, this sea creature is like me, all this stuff. They can't vocalize and all this stuff, and they're happy to see me, and like all these like things, and that was the connection.
Yeah.
And then it makes her really cool visual things that happen later on, but she does some things that like it looks really cool when it happens, but it like totally like messes up.
The narrative?
No, not the narrative. Messes up like just logically. It kind of strains the relationship with the person that like her landlord and like this other person, because of just like, hey, this sounds like a fun idea. Let me do something that could potentially,
Yeah.
harm the building and the relationship. Anyways, so I don't know. It's supposed to be a fairy tale. I get there's supposed to be a lightness to it, but the movie is not light. It's very heavy, very dark. And I think a lot of that credit goes towards Michael Shannon, who's just plays a really good, like, just sleazy dude. Like, and he's just like, ugh.
I don't know if you
like,
ever saw Boardwalk Empire.
yeah, he's always like that in every role
like
he's in.
Super
And
heavy-handed.
yeah, he's just like, ugh. But he's great at it, and I think that's why he keeps getting those roles.
Yeah.
But he is in it, and just his heaviness really like takes away from the lightness, which I felt like they're trying. So it felt tonally weird to me, and I couldn't connect with characters, and that's always been my biggest problem. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why specifically I couldn't connect with these characters. I really appreciated Sally Hawkins for her. And I connected with her in a sense where like, oh, I know what it's like to be misunderstood, but I couldn't connect with it at that level. Like, hey, I might love the sea creature thing, whatever. And it's just one of those things where people, maybe I have to listen to see what other people have to say about it, because people are raving about this movie.
Yeah.
And I am not seeing it right now. So I just kind of disappointed a little bit overall with it.
Was it the tonal aspects that it just felt
Tonal
off
aspects,
tonally, or?
off tonal elements of it. There was some stuff regarding like some sexuality elements of it. I was like, what is this even in the movie for? And I was just like, I didn't understand that.
I don't even want to ask.
Right.
But it's like you've got a fish man. And
Right. So I was like, I don't get this. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
get it. And I felt like I was like, this is sometimes off-putting things. And I was just like, it's weird. And it kind of just brought down the whole movie for me a little bit. Which is a bummer because I'm a huge GDT fan. I mean, I call him GDT, Guillermo. And
he's
so,
my man.
yeah, anyway, I like him, but I like Pacific Rim better, which is terrible to say, I'm sure, because this is getting Oscar like buzz.
Yeah.
And Pacific Rim isn't.
Well, I was thinking that this was, set in the 1960s.
Yeah.
So I was really feeling like there was going to be some sort of commentary angle of like separation, you know what I mean? Of
There's
like
some like,
like with the whole like segregate, like,
Yeah.
back of the bus sort of stuff.
There's a little bit of that, not a lot though.
What was the angle of social commentary? Like what?
A little bit of that, a little bit of
I'm trying not to be rude, but that's generally why
I can't
nominated.
go into it right here. I don't feel like I can.
Okay.
Maybe I can tell you a bit after off air, but
Fair enough.
because I don't want to ruin anything else. So
And how was Octavia Spencer?
Octavia Spencer was great.
fan.
And there are also little bits of humor that I don't feel like landed completely.
Okay.
Like I went for humor, but I didn't really I was in a theater with two other people, so there wasn't like a big group of people laughing at different scenes and stuff like that. So I couldn't tell if sometimes like one person laughed at something and I was like, oh, was that supposed to be funny? Like I didn't get it every time. I don't know. Maybe I was too tired. I don't know. But
Maybe if you're falling asleep.
just in the middle. I was like, what? But
I think one of the things that immediately made me dislike the idea of the movie was the name. I
Yeah.
don't know if they ever explained that, but water doesn't have a shape. I
Right.
mean, if that's the point.
that's the point of it.
Okay.
That's the point of it.
Okay.
It can surround you and take whatever shape, kind of a thing. Yeah. But they
It
didn't
embraces you
They
like
didn't
a
explain
wet
the fairy
hug.
tale. They say it's a fairy tale. They didn't explain it. It's just.
Was
I
there a
don't know.
moral? I'm not going to keep asking questions here, but usually fairy tales have a moral.
Not
obey
really.
your parents,
It felt a little bit more along those lines that I can't get too far into. Is, you can, no matter how different you are,
yeah.
that you can love.
Even if you're a fish fan.
Right. Exactly.
That's funny.
And how you connect with people, different types of people / non-people. But yeah, that's it for me. I mean, I had a real hard time with it. I've kind of debated on my score on what I wanted to give it, but I
Yeah.
think I'm sitting around. Oh, I'm gonna sit around a 70.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
gonna give it a C minus.
Wow.
And the only reason it's not in D territory is because I thought it looks awesome.
Mhm.
The creature looks awesome.
Yeah.
The acting was fantastic.
Hmm.
Direction was good. I just couldn't get behind the story, and I didn't connect emotionally. So that's my problem. And a lot of times, I know we've fought over movies before.
Yeah.
And I fully acknowledge that if I can connect emotionally, that I will be slightly more willing to be irrational when it comes to how much I like a movie.
Yeah.
So and that's okay with me. But this, I couldn't connect with anything, any of the characters. So I was like, okay. But yeah,
All right.
that's it.
I haven't seen it. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to see it
Yeah.
anytime soon with everything I have a backlog of after
No, I
being
gotcha.
sick. But it's on the list of potentials,
Yeah.
especially
I got a list too,
if
man.
or
It's
when
all
the
good.
nominations, the noms do come out.
Nom
So-
nom nom nom.
But I've always wanted to see a movie about a mute girl falling in love with a seahorse.
Yeah, seahorse.
It's kind of like the thought that I had with this movie, like a giant, weird sciencely
It's all good.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up on the podcast then for you. But I do want to encourage you to stay tuned. Coming up after this, we're going to be releasing our worst of 2017. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Or horrible,
Yeah.
depending upon how you look at it.
Awesomely horrible.
Awesomely horrible. Some ways to get connected once again at the end. RealReviewMedia.com. Check us out on there. It's our website. We also have our Facebook, which is Facebook.com/RealReviewMedia. We also have our Instagram and our Twitter, which are both at Real Review Media. And then we would love to hear your thoughts and perspectives, especially for, Shape of Water or Bright. These are both films that we kind of didn't really have the best opinions of.
Right.
So we would love to hear your perspectives, your thoughts. Maybe you loved them. Maybe you thought they were even worse than what we talked about. So shoot us an email, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts.
Do it.
Yeah. Anything else, Matt?
No, that's it.
Nay, nay?
Nay.
Like a seahorse? Nay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. It's been real.
It's been real.